Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Irwin Stromeyer joins us again here once again, better known as the Germ Police. We want to welcome you back to the show here live again to talk about obviously such important issues like the COVID Delta variant and all that your company obviously does. Sterile Space Infection Defense LLC is the name of the company based out of New Jersey. Welcome back today, Irwin. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jill, and yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. Please say hello and introduce yourself to those who may not know you yet.
I am Irwin Stromeyer, the owner of Sterile Space Infection Defense, otherwise known as the Germ Police. We are most likely the only infection prevention, control, and eradication services company in the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania tri-state area. We provide services that help reduce the opportunity for infectious germs to survive, thrive, and colonize the surfaces in your space, whether it be your home or your business. And therefore, if there's fewer germs around, there's fewer opportunities to get sick.
Beautiful. And you've been in the business for how long now, serving the tri-state area and even the U.S.?
Yes. We started this business in 2013, long before anybody heard the word pandemic. And that's unlike a lot of companies that cropped up overnight once the pandemic hit, looking to take advantage of the panic factor of a pandemic. Our services are based on science, and we only use the best EPA registered products as far as disinfectants and decontamination solutions, as well as antimicrobial coatings, which is really the key to our entire plan. We're located in West Orange, New Jersey, but as Jill said, we have done national work as well. Because of the pandemic right now, we're restricting our services to the area between, say, Washington, D.C. and Boston, and as far west as Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because that's where we can reasonably service people. And with the fact that this COVID Delta variant now burning through everything like wildfire all around the country, I'm not going to put myself or my staff at unnecessary risk. So we're trying to practice safe business and provide a safe space to people in their places of business or in their homes.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And speaking of the COVID Delta variant, now we had a great conversation last week, unfortunately, about how this is ramping up all over the U.S., all over the world. Would you mind giving us the latest and what's happening? Because I know you know all of these stats, and I can't wait to hear your expertise on this.
Well, the biggest concern that I've got from everything I've seen is that this new Delta variant is really creating a second pandemic of two primary groups, and actually they're still all one group, which are the unvaccinated. Okay. There are those who are more than old enough to get vaccinated, who for whatever reasons have chosen not to, whether it's political or they have a medical situation that their personal doctors feel maybe they should wait until things are figured out a little bit more to get vaccinated. But the real concern I have is children under 12 years of age who aren't eligible to be vaccinated yet, because the World Health Organizations and the CDC and the NIH are saying, look, we still don't have quite enough historical data to be able to say, yeah, let's use the same vaccine on young children. And it's for that reason that we also have to look at not only the biological contamination of surfaces that we're touching with our hands and then we touch our face, but what we're breathing. And the problem I see is, according to all the medical experts, even though people like ourselves who have been vaccinated, we can still catch the regular COVID-19 as well as the COVID Delta variant. We may not even know we've got it in many cases because we've already got the vaccine, or we might just get mild symptoms. But the problem is, and here's a perfect example, we do a lot of childcare centers.
Yes.
So the problem I see is, mommy may very well have been vaccinated in the last several months and she's well protected. Mm-hmm. Her child or children that go to daycare are too young to be vaccinated.
Yep.
So what happens is mommy goes and drops her child at daycare or childcare. She goes out, does her things for the day, whether it's work or shopping or whatever. But she's gone around to places where there's lots of other people and they're exhaling, or what they call shedding, virus every time they inhale and exhale.
Okay.
And the thing is, if a person who's vaccinated catches it and doesn't know they have it, they can go and give it to members of their family, like their young children who are not vaccinated yet. Those children tomorrow will go back to school or back to childcare or whatever activity center they go to, and they will spread it amongst their friends at school and possibly to some of the other teachers there who are probably already vaccinated, but then they go home. And the problem is, besides the children getting very sick from this, if they have any immunocompromised family members that they come into contact, Delta is so much stronger than the original COVID-19 that it not only is 10 times easier to transmit and catch,
I didn't know this. Whoa.
but 1,000 times more virulent, which means it's a much stronger virus and can really do a number on people. So, if you have grandma in the house or even just another family member that's immunocompromised and they catch this, it can do a real number on them. And just to give you an idea, between July 22nd and July 29th of this year, there have been 72,000 new cases of COVID, Delta and regular, amongst children and teens. And considering what the number was last week, that's up 84% from last week in 1 week.
Wow.
But that's 5 times more than they had at the end of June. So the problem is that, people may say, oh, well, it's not fully approved by the CDC yet, so I don't know if I want to put it in my arm. Or the political people I've been listening to are telling me it's not really a pandemic, or it's not nearly as bad as the common cold. And these are all massive misinformation campaigns that people are putting out there for God knows what reason. But the real concern, obviously, children dying from this is a critical concern. But I'm sure you've heard of the term long haul COVID survivors.
Yes.
Well, what that means is that even though people have gotten COVID and sometimes gotten extremely sick and been in the hospital and been on ventilators, and especially those people who have had it so severely, once it passes, so to speak, it doesn't just go away like the common cold or the flu. There are lots of other problems that are associated with this that are called long haul issues. And those are difficulty in breathing or shortness of breath, okay? Tiredness or fatigue or just feeling worn out all the time, okay? And if you try to do physical activities, or if you try to sit down and do work where you have to use your brain, the symptoms of that type of fatigue can just be crippling, okay? People get what's called brain fog from this, where they're not with it. It might feel like a hangover, but the problem is they've got long-term coughing, chest and stomach pain. Some of them have severe headaches, okay? Their heart is affected with like heart palpitations or serious pounding feelings. A lot of them have, unfortunately, diarrhea and sleep problems, fever, rashes are showing up, okay? Severe mood swings. And the thing is, this has been going on with survivors of this since the beginning of last year when it was first told to us that we had a pandemic. And those people are still suffering from it. If you watch the news, you'll see that they're having more and more of these people who have survived a bout with COVID on saying, either A, I was stupid to listen to all the rhetoric out there. I should have definitely gotten vaccinated. Going through this has been the worst experience of my life. Or they'll even say, fortunately for me, it wasn't as bad as some of the other people I know who got it. But, I'm constantly feeling exhausted. I constantly feel achy all over. I'm constantly coughing. Most days I'm so cloudy, I can't even really function that well at work. Okay, I become very moody. A lot of people were suffering from loss of taste and smell. I actually have a personal longtime friend of mine. She's been a friend of mine for over 20 years. She and her new husband caught COVID a few months back. And fortunately, it didn't hit them very hard, but she still has some of these long haul problems. She still gets tired very easily. And being an accountant, it's
Have to be
still
on and
technically accounting season because of some of the postponements and everything of filings. And she's telling me she finds it harder and harder to work late and get returns done. She finds that she gets fuzzy or brain fog pretty easily, where she was working on something and she got distracted by the brain fog
yeah.
and then wasn't sure where she left off. It's really a terrible thing to experience anything from this COVID disease. And going back to what I was saying earlier about children in daycare, most of this is transmitted by breath. You shed the virus by breathing or coughing or sneezing in most cases. And considering the superfinite mist that we exhale as breath, whatever pathogens are in there can hang in the atmosphere within a room for hours. So everybody could have been out of a room for the last 4 hours. Somebody could walk in to get something, and just from breathing that air, boom, they catch it. So the important thing for people to realize now, especially in places where there are children and places like work, is that now not only do surfaces need to be kept as germ-free as possible, but you need to do something to basically sanitize or sterilize the air that's in those spaces. And the best thing to use are what are called ultraviolet wavelength C air disinfection systems, where they suck the air in at one end, they run it past these extremely strong UVC bulbs, and the UVC frequency of light damages the DNA chains in the biologics that are in the air, so that when the air is blown out the other end of the device, it's essentially germ-free.
Is this what was mandated to open up the malls and the movie theaters? Didn't they have to get new filtration systems? Is this what we're talking about?
Well, there's two different things when it comes to air. The first one is filtration, which is very important because filtration systems remove things like pollen, dust, dander, depending on the filters that are in that system, whether they're HEPA 13 filters or better, okay, they will literally filter out larger biologics, usually over 1 micron in size. They also contribute to removing volatile organic compounds, chemical odors. In a child care center, there's an odor a lot of times that they wish they could get rid of pretty quick, especially in the infant rooms. So filter systems like that can really scrub the air and make it healthier to breathe. But don't forget, those systems to work optimally need to filter that air at least 3 times per hour. The entire volume of the room air needs to be filtered at least 3 times an hour, according to the CDC, to get the most benefit out of it. But COVID being exhaled by people in the room, these devices aren't going to filter that out so fast. So having a UVC air disinfection unit on the wall, it works at a higher speed, meaning it sucks more air in, usually faster than the floor-based odor removal systems. And what happens is it kills what's in that air, so that even though it's coming back out the top and it may have still some particulate in it of whatever, the air isn't infectious anymore. And that's critical.
Okay. But not everyone can have these elaborate systems in their homes and their environments. I mean, what's happening, even at the supermarket, right? All these things haven't been changed yet. I mean, so we're going out, we are putting ourselves at risk every time we go anywhere, correct?
Yeah, what a world we live in today, huh?
Yeah. So
No,
what is your thoughts on wearing masks again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And let me go back to something you said a moment ago, which was something about, hasn't it been mandated that facilities need to put some kind of air filtration in place? And there are systems that can be fit right into existing air conditioning and heating systems, which work really well because I don't know how fast an air conditioning and heating system will cycle the air of an entire facility, but something is better than nothing. And using the best that you can get is better than just going online and ordering some brand XYZ air filter or air disinfector. A lot of the information that's out there is very confusing and sometimes intentionally so, just so that they can sell products. You really need to do your homework on this. It's very important because the air we breathe is the first thing that can hurt us if it is full of pathogens. So you have to remember that, yes, wearing a mask is going to become critical again, especially if you're not vaccinated. And if you're not, get your butt to the doctor and get it done. But the thing is, if you catch the infection, you don't want to be breathing it all over the place to people. And here's an important visual for our listeners to think about. If you've ever seen somebody sitting there casually smoking a cigarette, they draw on the cigarette, they've inhaled it into their lungs, and then moments later, they usually just exhale it. So you'll see most of it come out of their mouth as a cloud.
Yep.
Some of it will still come out of their nose a few minutes later. But now, think of yourself as having supervision. And now you can see that cloud, but it's not smoke. It's somebody's breath being exhaled, and it's full of pathogens. Smoke is pathogen. But if you think of the smoke as COVID breath, then you can see how much people are actually exhaling into a particular room they're in.
And now it's just getting worse and worse. And the truth is, I haven't watched the news today. Is there any updates about our local area in the tri-state? I mean, I know the governor and for New York City, in a sense, wanted us to wear the mask. Is there anything up, any new facts that you've learned within the day?
To be honest with you, I've been in meetings all morning. I haven't even gotten a chance to look at the New Jersey EPA reports or the daily CDC briefings that I get every morning. But believe me, the governor of New Jersey, at least, is trying to push the right message. The governor of New York is trying to push the right message. Or, I mean, the mayor of New York. I'm sorry, the mayor of New York. Let's leave that other issue out of this.
Yes, good idea.
Talk about a political hot potato.
Oh my goodness.
But the thing is that people were like, I'm not going to wear a mask because it's infringing on my freedom and my rights. I'm sorry, people, but that's total BS. Yeah. Okay, it really is. If you love your family, if you love your friends, if you love yourself, do the right thing. Get vaccinated. If you've already had COVID, don't go on the simple assumption that, hey, I've had it, I've got the antibodies, I don't have to worry about getting vaccinated, because not every person's immune system is as healthy as the next or the last. So check with your doctor if you've had COVID, ask them if they feel you should get the vaccine, and follow their recommendations. Because the life you save, I'm not even worried about your own life. The life you save may be the life of your younger brother or sister, of your grandfather, your uncle, your mother, your best friend. Don't go through the rest of your life wondering, gee, because I chose to really be obstinate about this, that they may have caught it from me, and that's why they're not here anymore. So social distancing works. Don't get into large crowds you don't know. Wear your mask, and also wear gloves, because as I started to say at the beginning of this series of interviews that we've been doing,
it's all
germs are on surfaces. Even though stuff floats in the air, there's this thing called gravity, and whatever goes up usually comes down. And when it comes down on the surface and it's a pathogen, it has a very good opportunity to survive. Okay, so you don't want to get it on your hands and then be touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, which are the three primary entry points. Infection.
Now, what about the vaccine? Because I don't know when you had yours, but I think my last dose was in April. Are they saying that it's 6 months? I mean, but they don't even know. I mean, is there any updates on that about a booster shot, or what's happening with, because people think they have the vaccine, but do they really still have it? How long do you know?
Well, from everything I've seen and read, Okay. And like I said, I get information from CDC, NIH, and WHO daily, sometimes multiple times a day. But between that and between listening to certain briefings that I search out, right now they're saying, look, if you've gotten your vaccines, and I got mine in March and April.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too.
They say, look, it's working. We know it's working. People may still get sick with the virus, but
Not
they may have next to no symptoms,
Mhm.
or they might feel like they have to go to the doctor because they might have the flu. But there have been almost no rehospitalizations
Yeah,
of people
amongst those.
who have been vaccinated. Now, they talk about this thing called breakthrough infections, and it does happen from time to time. It is not widespread. And even if you have a breakthrough infection, if you've had the vaccination, it's not going to be nearly as horrible as if you hadn't gotten it. But like Israel right now is starting to, I don't know if they've mandated it, they may have for a certain age group to get a booster shot. Okay. And believe me, once the US medical experts say, you know what, we've learned more over the last few months, even if it's 3 or 4 months from now, but we've learned significantly more over the last few months about COVID Delta and the other previous versions. And we have seen some people in this age group that are having fewer antibodies than they did months ago when they were tested after getting vaccinated. So for, let's say, a certain age group, we're going to say, yes, you are the first people to get a booster shot. And then I'm pretty sure they're going to tell everybody to get a booster shot. This is, if you think about it, you know, a lot of people get the flu vaccine every year.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the flu vaccine is a perfect example of a vaccine working better sometimes than other times, because when they go to make flu vaccine every year, they are basically trying to take their best guess as to which strain of the flu is going to be the predominant one this year. And as you may remember, it was about 4 or 5 years ago, the flu vaccine was only 21% effective across the board because they guessed wrong.
Mm.
And it happens. Look, as great as medical science is, it is not perfect. And look, I'm the son of a physician myself. I know a lot about medicine because of that. With all of the advances we've made, and God knows we've made wonderful advances in medicine, we really only know about this much of everything we need to know. And that's why the experts are having such difficulty with this pandemic, because A, none of them were alive for the previous one. And yes, we are feeling around in the dark on certain days, depending on what kind of data comes in. And data that we had from last week or last month or last year, something happens next week and hey, wait a minute, this doesn't jive with this. So why is there a difference? And now we have to issue an update on our suggestions for how to stay safe. It's not that they don't know what they're talking about. It's like trying to hit a moving target, even for an accomplished sharpshooter. Hitting a moving target is still a challenge. They got a better chance of doing it than you and I, but it's still a challenge.
And now, how are you and your company doing? I mean, clearly, I mean, you were busy before the pandemic. Now the pandemic comes and people think that, oh, wow, maybe I should really, pay attention to these germs and call the germ police. And
I'm really hoping that this has woken up a lot of people. But I will tell you this, once somebody said the word pandemic last March, we wound up working every single day, including weekends and holidays, from March through the end of September. And it was a banner year. I'm sorry that it was a banner year that cost us 630,000 plus people. But the thing is that people have had, at least intelligent people, have had their eyes opened, and they are realizing, okay, wait, maybe we do need to pay more attention to germs, because remember, germs are so tiny that they cannot be seen with the naked eye. And in certain cases, you need really powerful microscopes to see them. So between last year and this year, business is not as busy as last year, but it's still doing nicely, thank God. But a lot of people are saying, you know what, we did your service last year and it seemed to help a lot, and we're not seeing much of anything this year yet. So instead of renewing at the 12-month mark, we're going to wait and see how things start with the school year. And if we start having problems, We'll have you come in then. You know what? The reason they call hindsight 2020 is because the other half of your brain tells you, I told you so. Yeah, we should have done this before and we should have spent the money on it. And it's not terribly expensive. It really isn't. I mean, as the owner of the company, first of all, I offer everybody a no interest payment plan because look, business was so tight for most businesses last year that we didn't want to take their cash flow. And on top of that, unlike being some of these other companies that really didn't need the money, okay, when our accountants came to us and said, hey, listen, there are these programs that you can get money from the government and you don't have to pay it back.
Wow.
And every single time I said, I don't want to take the money because A, I don't need it, and B, I'm sure that there's somebody out there who needs it a lot worse than I do. So I was not going to dip into the bucket and pull out a ladle of water when I know the person behind me may not have had a drink for 2 weeks.
That is super kind of you, Irwin, really. And what do you want to leave your listeners with today about you, your services, how you can help, and how do you get started to work with someone like you to get a consultation?
Well, one of the things that's important to remember is we can tell you what's going on in your space. We can test the surfaces and tell you what pathogens are present and the volume of those pathogens so that you know how concerned you actually should be. We can show you the right way to decontaminate, or what some people call cleaning, your own spaces, and the proper way to use disinfectants. But if you really want to provide yourself with a healthier environment for a longer period of time, our complete service can provide that between the testing, the decontamination, the terminal disinfection, and the antimicrobial coating we use, which we warranty our service for a year. It will significantly reduce the survival, the ability to thrive, and the colonization of your surfaces by all kinds of other germs, not just COVID, okay? But all the germs you normally come into contact with. We will seriously reduce that ability to get sick because our clients who basically have what are called germ factories, otherwise known as childcare centers, and I don't say that to slam childcare centers. Childcare centers are a wonderful thing, okay? But to use our services, they have reported to us that they have seen a minimum of a 50 to 70% reduction in illness and infection issues throughout the course of a year, 12 months, from having our once-a-year service. And if people want to get in touch with us, they can reach us at 973-714-8288. You can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but if it's not like a real super duper
But let's not,
you know, try to make it between like 6 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Yeah.
They can also go to our website at www.sterilespace.com, and they can also reach out to me by email to Irwin, IRWIN, at sterilespace.com, and I will be happy to get back to them as fast as I can.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for doing what you do. And again, AKA Germ Police. I love that. It's so true. So reach out to Irwin, tell him we sent you. And thank you for providing all this necessary and important information for our listeners here today. Again, as always, full of information, Irwin. Thank you. We appreciate your expertise.
You're very, very welcome, Jill. Other than that, check out the information I've been sending you and give me a call and tell me what you think.
Thank you. Have a great day. And everyone else the same. Please stay tuned. More of the show is on the way.
Take care, dear. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.